me level set in terms of the which of the voice overlays that I use. So show of hands. Government services knowledgeable people in the room? So mostly not. Okay, so let's start off with an introduction. First of all, I'm Chuck Crow. I'm the CEO of V2X. I have a bit of background. V2X is a publicly traded company, obviously, on New York Stock Exchange, and we have been around since 2014. We were a spin out, if you go back, from ITT, and our sole focus is on the U.S. military, the national security apparatus, and increasingly play a role in places like Department of State and some of the civilian agencies. So that's an introduction of who we are. We're 100% focused, 98% plus focused on government contracting, heavily focused on the national security apparatus, and by and large, we're a prime contractor. We're a very low part of our portfolio is subcontractors, so we're a prime contractor. If you go to the next slide, just an introduction of who we are as human beings. We're about 16,000 people deployed globally. We are quite a diverse company on a number of different levels. More than half of our people, more than 40% report, more than half of our people are former military. So I'd like to think that we play an important role in the veterans ecosystem as well. We are essentially a 100% services company. So when I say we were spun out of ITT, our merger partner, Vertex, which the merger was consummated in 22, they were a spin out of both Beach as well as Raytheon. And you'll see the heritage of all the companies on this chart. And you can see, although we're a relatively new company, our respective heritages go back into the 1940s, 1950s. And so when I say we are a services company, we focus on operational services. So we operate military bases, we operate military supply chains, we operate military IT networks, we maintain military aircraft, and we support military training missions. Increasingly, we have a significant technology capability, and that technology capability is being employed or deployed into the infrastructures and the missions that we are privileged to support. What you'll also see on this chart is we've done a number of acquisitions over time, and those acquisitions, again, are focused on capability development, expansion of our client base, and the capabilities that we talked about just a few minutes ago. If you can get to the next, this is kind of a rough order of magnitude, about $3.9 billion of revenue, plus or minus $290 million of EBITDA, more than $13 billion of backlog, which would say that we have really more than 3 years of backlog in the portfolio and more than 15,000 people. When we did the merger, we wanted to solve for a couple of really important points in our maturation as a leader in this marketplace. We wanted to increase our diversification, both geographically, but from a client perspective as well. We wanted to de-risk the portfolio in terms of the size of contracts. We now have we only have one contract with 13% of our revenue in that one contract. Everything else is less than that. We have, again, in that $13 billion of backlog, we don't have any major recompete risk of more than 2% of revenue for the next 24 months. So the merger was very successful from a capability expansion, a diversification perspective. You can see we have great revenue visibility and significantly de-risked the portfolio. From an ownership perspective, we have a 61% owner, AIP, American Industrial Partners. They are the private equity firm that owned Vertex prior to the merger, and that ownership is in their Fund 6, which is available on their website. They've been a great partner for us and with us, and the focus continues to be on value creation. If you can take a look at our organic growth strategy, our focus is, again, to be a leader in the operational segment of the broader federal services marketplace. So what you're not going to see us do is you are not going to see us vector off and try to compete with all the big IT primes. What we are going to do is we are going to stay very focused on inserting technology into significant operational missions operated within the national security complex. We are going to deploy technology into those missions, and ultimately those missions will run better, faster, cheaper. The capabilities we support in the operational segment are both in aerospace solutions as well as what we call global mission support and training. And you'll see our advanced technology capabilities are sold directly to our clients in terms of operational technologies, but more than anything else, sold through our clients into the major operational programs that we support. Aerospace solutions at a glance. The short story is that there are a number of military aircraft out there that are typically aging, and we maintain those aircraft and we modernize those aircraft. So what does that mean? So many of the older aircraft had the analog displays. What we can do is we can upgrade those analog displays into digital displays, as an example, and do so within the same form function of the original aircraft, which means that aircraft can be upgraded in a much, much shorter cycle time, would be some examples. Our aerospace business has infused technology into the way that it operates over the last few years, and sometimes client results speak, 1,000 words, right? So over the last 18 months, we've been awarded about $1.7 billion of aerospace business on 5 major contracts and several minor contracts. And the 5 major contracts, or the 4 major contracts that make up that $1.7 billion, were taken away from entrenched competitors. So they are all share takeaway from competitors out there, and we believe the reason that is happening is because, again, a different way of executing the mission, I call it better, faster, cheaper way, is actually being recognized by our clients in the marketplace. Advanced technology is a discriminator. So let's talk a little bit about what advanced technology is. It's everything from the maintenance of large radar systems, OMDAC SWACA, which you see as the very first picture on the chart. That's actually the operation of the largest cyber center for the U.S. Army outside the continental United States. So although we talk about the leader in the operational segment of the federal services marketplace, that also means the operations of networks at scale. And finally, what we are finding, and much to our great satisfaction, is that some of the technologies that we deploy to operate bases and supply chains better are now being sold directly to our clients. A great example of that is 5G. We are very fortunate to be one of the 2 awardees of the DoD $600 million 5G experimentation platform. Actually, I think there were 3 actually. The one that was originally awarded, there are now 2. And we have now taken those 5G capabilities into other locations in addition to the original prototype locations. Last point is, as an extension of what we do for both base management, aircraft maintenance, the perimeter support technologies that keep the places that we work secure and surveilled, if you will, are a part of our solution set and came to us through an acquisition of Advantor a couple of years ago. And finally, global mission training and sustainment. So this business is predominantly like 80%-ish, if you will, performed outside the continental United States. We have very notable, very large, very deep presence in both training and base management in the U.S., but by and large, this capability is projected forward into the tip of the spear, if you will. We operate all the U.S. bases in Kuwait. We operate the U.S. bases in Iraq. We operate the U.S. bases in the Reagan National test range in the Kwajalein Atolls. And because of a contract we have, which is called LOGCAP, what we also do is any activity that is urgent and compelling in either CENTCOM, which is the Middle East, or Indo-PACOM, which is obviously the Pacific, if that activity is urgent and compelling, that by the government, by the contract and the government regulation can come V2X sole source without having to go through a competition. That was a very new innovation that came along with LOGCAP 5, and the military had worked to get to this point for several years, and at least I believe the LOGCAP 5 has been a big boost to the military readiness for our clients. If you think about what we do end to end, if the military and or the national security complex, they're either fighting or deployed or they're training. And what you can see on, I guess, my left-hand side of this chart here, which would be your left too, yes, your left also. You can think of that as training, preparing to be deployed and being deployed and or modernizing things that will be deployed. Largely on the right-hand side of the chart is basically deploying and engaging, whether that is in a military conflict, could be a national security disaster, it could be a weather-related disaster, or in some cases it could be some other sort of emergency situation. If you remember a couple of years ago, Christmas time, almost 2 years ago exactly this time, we read about, like everybody else in the country, the water contamination situation that the Navy faced in Red Hill, Hawaii. Within 8 days, we were under contract. We essentially stood up an enormous water purification facility, and we're still working that mission today. So although these urgent and compelling activities, some cases they sprout up and they go away, but some cases they could be there for, in this case, several years. And the key takeaways are, we're a new company, but we have been around for a long time. The investment thesis is very clear. The industry that we're in is large and it's consolidating. We are a leader in that industry. We are very diverse now, and with that diversity brings the ability to continue to take the available capacity we have and reinvest in adjacent capabilities. The last point I'll make, you'll see our financials. We have a bit more debt than we had prior to the merger. Prior to the merger, the legacy Vectrus was essentially zero net debt. We knew we had the ability to do something very strategic. We looked at a couple of strategic opportunities, which are all public now, and we're Company B in some of those filings. We were very pleased when we found our partners at AIP and the Vertex company. We had looked at the predecessors of Vertex over the years, but we're never really in a position to bring those inorganic activities to fruition. But everything worked out, and we couldn't be more thrilled with not only the company, the people, and from an investment perspective, we're very early on in our value creation journey. We'll leave it at that and open it up for questions.
Questions from the audience. I'll see the first one and get it started here.
Sure.
So, Chuck, one of the things you mention often on calls is expanding the base. And I wonder if you give us a little more color as to what that means and why that is so important.
So in the services business, the single most efficient new business dollar you'll ever spend is on growing your current contract base. One of the innovations that I believe that we have brought to this industry is the ability to overperform on our existing business, i.e. do it faster and with less money. And by doing that, we can then turn back to our clients, and they take their unfunded requirements, they rack those and stack those, and we end up ultimately delivering more services than were originally awarded. Point one. And point two is inserting the capabilities that we talked about, technology capabilities, allowing our clients to do things better, faster, and cheaper. Those two realities, so in the last quarter we announced $300 million of on-contract growth, And this year to date, it's been more than $1 billion of on-contract growth. That didn't used to happen in this industry. It happened kind of in the high-tech part of the industry, but never in the operational segment. That has been, it's been a big benefit for us. And as much as the financial benefit, it really underscores our clients' vote in terms of their satisfaction of us.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Chuck, it looks like the company's strategy has been to make a lot of acquisitions, which has put a lot of goodwill and intangibles, so that you have a negative tangible net worth and a lot of debt. And I wondered, like going forward, would you expect to reduce that, and the last couple of quarters have been a deficit. Is that something that's going to change? And that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yes, so our strategy has played out in far above market organic growth results. So our belief is that fundamentally, we are going to grow first and foremost organically, winning contracts that we should win, which is the exact reason I brought up the $1.7 billion is an easy compare, if you will, in terms of all of that business was taken away organically from competitors, point one. Point two is that the current financial systems are still have a bit of the current financial status still has a bit of an overhang from the merger, which was completed not that long ago. We're a very high cash flow generating company, and you can see that in the financials. The CapEx is typically, 20-ish, maybe 25 million-ish a year. So our overall business model is, high cash flow, low CapEx, outperform the market organically. But again, this is a $160 billion market that is continuing to consolidate. And so what is our responsibility as a board and as myself as a CEO and our leadership is to find thoughtful ways by which we can deploy a capital allocation strategy that will not be duplicative, but will actually add to our value proposition. What do I mean by that? That when we brought these two companies together, there was virtually zero revenue dyssynergies. We may have eliminated a dozen deals in the pipeline between both companies. That doesn't happen very often. We walked away from a potential opportunity just before this one, where those negative revenue synergies were ultimately untenable, and we made a decision as the then board and management not to proceed. Answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Anything else? Any other question?
So, obviously, defense, government services, continuing resolution is always something that's there. How does that continuing resolution, impact the V2X business and opportunities?
Sure. I mean, government contracting is very obviously tied to federal budgets, and when federal budgets, are in the state they're in today is something we have to watch, obviously. We are very fortunate as an organization to be almost exclusively funded through what the government calls the O&M funds. So these are funds that are typically 2-year funds and are essential operations. So in my prior life, I was a senior executive at IBM, and we did a lot of design build, and a lot of that new work is sometimes affected by continuing resolutions. In addition to the normal O&M funding, whenever we have situations like we have today in both Europe with the Ukraine, the obvious tragedy in the Middle East, and also Indo-PACOM for that matter, many times that funding comes through supplemental. You see a lot of that on TV these days, but those supplemental funds are also ways by which V2X can get funded. When you look at the V2X results kind of quarter over quarter, you can see when op-tempo around the world is high, particularly in the Middle East and Indo-PACOM, to a lesser, but still in Europe as well. That typically is a tailwind to our business. And then when things are less volatile, then we have lesser of that supplemental funding. Any other questions?
What keeps you up at night?
Our people are very dedicated people. Again, more than half of them are former military, and in many cases, they're in remote and austere environments. And so what really keeps me up at night is less about the financial aspects of our business, which I think we have a very solid business model, and we're on a very good trajectory, and will be so for a while, but it's our people.
Is the majority of your business straight with the DoD, or do you also do direct commercial contracts or FMS cases?
We are increasingly an FMS provider, and we're thrilled to be able to here really soon, like in our next earnings call, talk about really substantial progress there. We do have some international sales. At this point in time, they're not, like material more than 10% of our revenue, but those adjacencies are important adjacencies that we continue to invest in as a part of our organic growth thesis. And it's more than a thesis because we've been putting points on the board.
And inorganically, any action there?
Right now, the focus is obviously on
No, you
debt to
just went
EBITDA. Debt to EBITDA. That doesn't mean we're not always on the lookout for things that make a lot of sense. And there's always some things that make sense, but the primary focus right now, not the exclusive focus, but the primary focus is on getting that debt to EBITDA in the 2 to 3 times range, which is where we historically have kept it. Anything else? Anyone else?
Thank you, Chuck.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Actually, I do have a question. Are there any firms that, if you have the capacity, direct your business to, or you do?
I'm sorry?
Are there any firms that you partner with that you redirect business to?
We are predominantly almost exclusively a prime contractor. We do have $1.5 billion plus supply chain. Some of that subcontracting is for materials and some is for labor, so we do a fair amount of subcontracting.
Are the major ones, like they're all private or public, or?
It ranges. We overseas, there's a lot of time that's with labor partners. Think about where we're located. We buy a lot of air conditioners, a lot of generators. We have a very large transportation spend, and so it would be all the normal things and support companies that you would expect to see in a global logistics company.
G comes to mind.
On the aviation business. A lot of times in the aviation business, the materials portion of that are actually government-owned inventories, contractor managed. So the true leverage that we have as a prime contractor is really understated by what we buy, because we have such a broad footprint in managing government-owned inventory. It's actually an interesting number that at some point in time I'd like to talk about, because there is a really interesting commercial leverage point in having that scale publicly available. Make sense? Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
With more than 6,000 small and micro cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple, then Channel Check truly is your tree. It's an investor community where you can access independent Wall Street research, advanced market data, balanced news, corporate videos, and podcasts. You can even register to attend in-person Meet the Management Series luncheons, and to be part of the preeminent annual Small and Microcap Investor Conference, NobleCon. And here's the best news. Since Channel Check is sponsored by the featured companies, premium membership requires no investment. It's absolutely free. So check it out. Log in today. Find out why Channel Check is North America's leading source of research on the companies that just may change the world.